Ukraine's former commander-in-chief confirms existence of Wiesbaden HQ, calling it our secret weapon. Zelenskyy confirms presence of Ukrainian forces in Russia's Belgorod region, and Canada considers peacekeeping mission in Ukraine, but with condition. The latest news next. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy listened to the reports of the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrskyi. He provided an update on the situation at the front and the Ukrainian military operation in the Kursk and Belgorod regions of Russia, according to the President's evening address.
Today, the Commander-in-Chief, Oleksandr Syrskyi, gave a separate report. The front, our presence in the Kursk region, and our presence in the Belgorod region. We continue active operations in the border areas on enemy territory, and this is absolutely fair. The war must return to where it came from.
He noted that the main goal of the Ukrainian Armed Forces operation remains to protect Ukrainian land as much as possible, particularly communities in the Sumy and Kharkiv regions from Russian forces. According to the President, Syrskyi reported on the activity of Ukrainian units specifically along the borderline, as well in the so-called Grey Zone and directly on enemy territory.
It is important that, thanks to the bravery and resilience of our soldiers in the Kursk region, and due to the entire Kursk operation, we have been able to reduce the pressure on other parts of the front, particularly in the Donetsk region. It is absolutely critical to continue destroying Russian equipment along the front, as well as all the logistics used by the occupier.
He thanked each unit that ensures results, inflicts losses on the enemy and defends Ukrainian positions. And also in the Belgorod region, active actions these days that 225th Assault Regiment. Well done, guys. I'm proud of each and every one of you fighting for Ukraine, added the President. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has expressed his intention to continue supporting Ukraine and has ruled out any peace options dictated by Moscow, according to the official's interview with Radio Canada. The head of government noted that Canada still needs to assess the conditions under which it could participate in a peacekeeping operation. Carney pointed out that the country is currently part of the so-called coalition of the willing under the coordination of France and the UK, adding that this is one of the topics I'm discussing with the leaders of these countries. The Canadian Prime Minister also emphasized that no peace agreement should be made without Ukrainians' consent and deemed any ultimatums from the Kremlin unacceptable, particularly demands to change the central government in Kyiv. Carney said that he was very proud of how the Canadian government and Canadians in general supported the Ukrainian people. He categorically rejected the possibility of making peace without Ukrainians' involvement and any demands from Russian dictator Vladimir Putin to remove President Zelenskyy. About peacekeeping mission in Ukraine, in early March, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced the creation of the so-called coalition of the willing. This group consists of European countries that could send peacekeeping troops to Ukraine to protect it from Russia once peace is achieved. Recently, Ukrainian, French and British military officials held talks. The parties attempted to identify ways to achieve peace and stability after the cessation of hostilities. Valeriy Zaluzhnyi, former commander-in-chief of the armed forces and current Ukrainian ambassador to the UK, has lifted the veil on the creation of a military headquarters in Wiesbaden, Germany in 2022, describing it as a secret weapon used in planning operations and identifying needs for their implementation, reported by Zaluzhnyi on Facebook, The New York Times. About details. Prior to this, The New York Times reported that Ukrainian and American military personnel in the Wiesbaden headquarters cooperated daily to identify priority targets. Intelligence officers examined satellite imagery and intercepted messages to locate Russian positions, the coordinates of which were later passed on to the Ukrainian armed forces. The publication stated that the idea behind the partnership was that close cooperation with the US would compensate for Russia's overwhelming advantage in manpower and weaponry. To guide Ukrainians in deploying their increasingly sophisticated arsenal, the Americans launched an operation called Task Force Dragon. Speaking about the development of the headquarters, Zaluzhnyi explained that after the full-scale invasion began, military assistance from partners increased significantly. Ukraine began receiving a wide range of weapons and equipment, which brought new challenges in terms of logistics and repair.
That is why, in April 2022, we set up a facility to coordinate military aid deliveries to Ukraine. It was initially stationed at the U.S. European Command Headquarters in Stuttgart, Germany. Later, the headquarters continued to operate in Wiesbaden. We quickly understood that we needed a joint operational headquarters with our partners to evaluate the requirement for weapons and equipment based on operational planning. This became especially important in the summer of 2022, when our partners began to doubt the practicality of specific types of weapons and ammunition on the front line in Ukraine.
Zaluzhnyi revealed that this gave rise to the idea of transforming the logistics center into an operational headquarters that would analyze Ukrainians' planned operations and define needs based on NATO standards. The initiative was implemented with the support of the United Kingdom.
And Wiesbaden received a new lease on life. This headquarters became the place where operations were planned, war games were conducted, needs for the armed forces were formed, and then communicated to Washington and European capitals.
He stressed that this platform has become an excellent mechanism for cooperation with our partners regarding future military operations and for forming requirements to support them. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe.